When HOA Karen led hunters onto my ranch and they shot my prize bull, she thought she'd solved her cattle problem. She didn't know Thunder was a federally protected heritage breed worth $50,000, and killing him would trigger a $2.8 million federal investigation that destroyed her life. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The gunshot shattered the peaceful morning air like thunder. I dropped my coffee mug on the kitchen counter and ran outside to see three men in camouflage walking across my pasture, rifles in hand. Behind them, my prize heritage bull, Thunder, lay motionless in the grass. "What the hell are you doing on my property?" I shouted, running toward them. The lead hunter, a heavy-set man with a graying beard, turned casually. "Morning. We're hunting nuisance cattle. Got permission from the HOA." My heart stopped. Permission from who? Lady named Karen Sullivan. Said these wild bulls were dangerous and needed to be removed. He gestured toward Thunder's massive form. This one was definitely aggressive. Thunder wasn't aggressive. He was a registered Texas Longhorn, part of a heritage breed preservation program. His bloodline traced back 150 years, and he was worth more than most people's cars. Now he lay dead because of Karen's interference. "Get off my land. Now." My voice was shaking with rage. "Hey, we got proper authorization. Take it up with your HOA lady." I pulled out my phone and called 911 while the hunters casually walked away, leaving Thunder's body behind like discarded trash. Sheriff Martinez arrived within 20 minutes, followed by a county wildlife officer. They examined Thunder's body and took statements from the hunters, who produced a signed letter from Karen Sullivan authorizing removal of dangerous livestock. "Mr. Davidson, this is complicated," Sheriff Martinez explained. "They have what appears to be valid authorization from your HOA. Sheriff, these are registered heritage cattle. They're not wild animals or nuisances. They're part of a federal conservation program." The wildlife officer looked up from his examination. "Sir, this bull has ear tags and appears well maintained. This isn't a wild animal." "That's what I've been trying to tell you. Karen Sullivan had my prize bull killed because she doesn't like cattle on the ranch." I called my lawyer, Marcus Webb, while standing over Thunder's body. Marcus specialized in agricultural law and had helped me establish the Heritage Cattle Program. "Marcus, I need emergency legal help. Someone just shot my bull and they claim the HOA authorized it." "Tom, slow down. Tell me exactly what happened." I explained the morning's events while the sheriff documented the scene. Marcus listened with growing alarm. "Tom, this is serious on multiple levels. First, killing registered livestock without owner consent is felony animal cruelty. Second, if these are heritage breed cattle, there are federal protections involved." "What kind of federal protections?" "The USDA has strict regulations about heritage livestock. Killing registered animals without proper authority could violate federal agricultural laws." "I'm coming out there immediately." An hour later, Marcus arrived with a briefcase full of documents. He examined Thunder's ear tags and compared them to his registration papers. "Tom, Thunder was registered with the American Texas Longhorn Association and enrolled in the USDA Heritage Breed Conservation Program. Killing him without federal permission could carry penalties up to $500,000. The sheriff overheard this conversation. "Mr. Webb, are you saying this involves federal law?" "Absolutely. Heritage livestock are protected under agricultural preservation statutes. Unauthorized killing of registered animals is a federal offense." Sheriff Martinez immediately called for backup and contacted the FBI's Agricultural Crimes Unit. What had started as a property dispute was becoming a federal case. Meanwhile, I drove to Karen's house, a massive colonial mansion at the entrance of our rural neighborhood. She answered the door with her usual smug expression. "Karen, what the hell did you do? You had my bull killed. Your dangerous cattle were threatening neighborhood safety. As HOA president, I have authority to address hazardous conditions. Those were registered heritage cattle, you psychopath. They're worth $50,000 each and protected by federal law." Her confident expression flickered. "Federal law? You just authorized the killing of federally protected livestock. That's a felony." I showed her the photos on my phone, Thunder's body, the registration papers, the USDA conservation documents. Karen's face went white as she realized the magnitude of her mistake. I didn't know they were special cattle. They looked wild and dangerous. They'd been in the same pasture for 2 years. You drive past them every day." "Tom, I was trying to protect the neighborhood. Those bulls are enormous and intimidating. They're behind 4-foot fencing on my private ranch. They've never escaped or threatened anyone. Karen slammed the door in my face, but I could see her panicking through the window. She was making frantic phone calls, probably trying to find a lawyer. The FBI agricultural crimes investigator arrived that afternoon. Agent Sarah Mitchell was a serious woman who specialized in livestock crimes and agricultural terrorism. "Mr. Davidson, I need to understand the scope of your heritage cattle operation." I showed her around the ranch, explaining the conservation program. I had 12 Texas Longhorns, all registered, all part of genetic preservation efforts to maintain historic bloodlines. "These animals are irreplaceable," Agent Mitchell noted. "Their genetic value to breed preservation can't be calculated in simple monetary terms." "Agent Mitchell, Karen has been harassing me about the cattle since I moved here. She's filed complaints with the county, tried to get zoning violations, and now this." "What was her specific objection to the cattle?" "She thinks they're dangerous and lower property values. She's wanted them gone since day one." Agent Mitchell examined Karen's authorization letter. "This document claims authority to remove wild and dangerous cattle threatening public safety. Did she ever inspect the animals or consult with livestock experts?" "Never. She made the decision from her car window." "Mr. Davidson, this appears to be a clear case of unauthorized destruction of protected agricultural assets. We'll be pursuing federal charges." The investigation expanded rapidly. Agent Mitchell discovered that Karen had contacted the hunters through a pest removal service, describing my cattle as wild and aggressive animals threatening the neighborhood. She'd provided false information to justify their killing, never mentioning that they were registered livestock on private property behind fencing. The hunters, realizing they'd been deceived, immediately cooperated with investigators. They provided recordings of their phone calls with Karen, where she explicitly lied about the cattle's status. "She told us they were feral cattle that had been attacking people," the lead hunter explained. "She said the property owner had abandoned them and they needed to be eliminated for public safety." Federal prosecutors moved quickly. Karen was charged with destruction of protected agricultural property, providing false information to federal investigators, and conspiracy to commit livestock theft. The charges carried potential penalties of $2 million in fines and 20 years in federal prison. But the real shock came when Agent Mitchell discovered the full scope of Karen's scheme. "Mr. Davidson, we found something interesting in Karen's communications. She's been working with a development company that wants to buy your ranch for a shopping center." "What?" "Meridian Development has been trying to purchase ranch properties in this area for commercial development. Karen has been acting as their unofficial agent, trying to drive out livestock operations to lower property values." Agent Mitchell showed me email chains between Karen and Meridian executives, discussing strategies to eliminate agricultural activities that made properties unsuitable for development. Karen was systematically targeting ranch operations to help developers acquire land cheaply. Your heritage cattle were just the latest obstacle. The conspiracy went deeper than anyone imagined. Karen had filed similar complaints against 3 other ranchers in the area, using false safety concerns to force removal of livestock. She'd been paid $25,000 by Meridian Development for each successful conversion of agricultural property to development-ready land. Federal prosecutors expanded the charges to include racketeering and conspiracy to defraud agricultural businesses. Karen's simple HOA harassment had become a federal criminal enterprise. The trial took place 6 months later. The courtroom was packed with ranchers, agricultural advocates, and representatives from heritage breed associations. Karen's defense attorney tried to portray her as a concerned neighbor worried about public safety. But the evidence was overwhelming. Agent Mitchell testified about the heritage cattle program and the irreplaceable genetic value of Thunder's bloodline. Agricultural experts explained how Karen's actions threatened national livestock preservation efforts. The hunters testified about Karen's deception, providing recordings where she deliberately lied about the cattle's status and ownership. Most damaging was the evidence of Karen's financial relationship with Meridian Development. Prosecutors proved she'd been systematically targeting agricultural operations for financial gain. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," the prosecutor argued in closing statements, "Karen Sullivan didn't kill Thunder because she feared for public safety. She killed him because a dead bull can't graze on land that developers want to buy." The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Judge Roberts sentenced Karen to 15 years in federal prison and ordered her to pay $2.8 million in restitution, covering the value of Thunder, damages to the heritage breed program, and penalties for agricultural crimes. Meridian Development faced their own federal investigation for conspiracy and bribery. The company's executives were indicted for paying Karen to eliminate agricultural operations through false complaints and fraudulent safety claims. But justice for Thunder went beyond criminal convictions. The American Texas Longhorn Association established the Thunder Heritage Protection Fund to prevent similar attacks on conservation livestock. Federal agricultural laws were strengthened to increase penalties for killing heritage breed animals and to require law enforcement training about protected livestock identification. 6 months after the trial, I stood in the same pasture where Thunder had died. A new bull, Thunder's half-brother Storm, grazed peacefully where his relative had fallen. Storm carried the same irreplaceable genetic heritage, the same 150-year bloodline that Karen had tried to eliminate. The Heritage Cattle Program not only survived her attack but expanded, with new protections and federal support. Karen's house sat empty, a for sale sign weathered by months of rain. Meridian Development had withdrawn from the area after federal investigators seized their assets. The other ranchers Karen had targeted were rebuilding their operations, supported by agricultural grants and heritage breed organizations that rallied around Thunder's story. My phone rang as I watched Storm interact with the herd. It was Dr. Elizabeth Carter from the USDA Heritage Breed Conservation Program. "Tom, I have good news. We've approved your application to expand the conservation program. You'll receive federal funding to acquire 10 more heritage cattle." "Dr. Carter, that's incredible news." Thunder's death became a rallying point for livestock conservation. Congress increased funding for heritage breed protection partly because of what happened to your bull. I hung up and walked over to Storm, who approached the fence with the same gentle curiosity Thunder had always shown. These magnificent animals carried genetic treasures that had survived centuries of American history. Karen had seen them as obstacles to development profits. She tried to eliminate them with bullets and lies, thinking agricultural heritage could be erased with a phone call to hunters. Instead, her attack had triggered federal protections that ensured heritage cattle would be safer than ever before. That evening, I attended a community meeting at the local Grange Hall. Ranchers from across the county had gathered to discuss agricultural protection strategies. "Tom's story shows what we're up against," said veteran rancher Bob Martinez. "Developers will use any tactic to eliminate agriculture, including hiring HOA presidents to kill our livestock. But it also shows that we can fight back," added cattle breeder Susan Chin. "Federal law protects heritage livestock. We just need to enforce it." The meeting established a regional agricultural protection alliance, with legal resources and rapid response capabilities to defend ranchers against fraudulent complaints and development schemes. 6 months later, I received a letter from federal prison. Karen Sullivan had written to apologize for Thunder's death and to warn about other ranchers who might face similar attacks. "I realize now that I destroyed something irreplaceable," she wrote. "Thunder wasn't just a bull, he was a living piece of American history. I hope other heritage cattle are better protected because of my terrible mistake." I showed the letter to Storm, who snorted dismissively and returned to his grass. Bulls don't forgive easily and heritage breeds have long memories. Thunder's death had seemed like a senseless tragedy caused by one woman's greed and ignorance. But his legacy became stronger federal protections for heritage livestock, increased funding for conservation programs, and a nationwide network of ranchers committed to preserving agricultural heritage. Karen Sullivan had tried to eliminate the past for short-term profit. Instead, she'd secured the future for generations of heritage cattle that would graze American pastures long after her prison sentence ended. The bulls had won. Heritage had triumphed over greed. And Thunder's bloodline would continue carrying America's genetic treasures into the future, protected by laws written in his memory. Standing in the pasture at sunset, watching Storm lead the herd to water, I raised a beer in Thunder's honor. Some victories come at a terrible price, but they ensure that future generations inherit the treasures that greedy people try to destroy. The heritage endures. The bulls remember. And justice sometimes comes on 4 hooves.